can't even put into words how grateful I am to be asked to come out here. These conventions that are this size, you know what I mean, where by the end of the weekend you've met everybody. You know, there's an intimacy there. There's a friendship and a kinship, and whenever I show up, I think, how am I going to, you know, break into this little inner circle? Everybody knows everybody already. You guys always let me in. Always let me in. I should know better by now. I really should. Because no matter where I go in NA, I show up, and it's like I already know you guys, because you're all as creepy as me. These facilities are great. This is the biggest podium I've ever spoke at, so that's kind of cool. It's a little large, but my whole family's here with me. We've been made really welcome. We've been fed like lambs to the slaughter. I appreciate that. I feel a little weird every time the bell goes off and I react like Pavlov's dog to go to this mess hall. And I guess I thought I ate normal amounts before I got here, but if this is normal, I've been living in famine. Because it's like every 4 hours that bell goes off and I just finished napping off lunch and you guys want to feed me more. And somebody said to me, well, you have control. No, I have a wristband that says I can eat as much as I want. Maybe someone else has control, but it doesn't really matter if I'm full or not. The food's there. I gotta take it, right? Everybody that came up that had less than 90 days, they said it already, you guys are the most important people here. I haven't got to meet a lot of the newer people that are up here this weekend. I got to meet Mandy and Alex and a couple others here and there. But you guys got to know it's more than that. You're our lifeblood. We don't function without you guys. I mean, we need you as much as you need us. Because I consistently forget where I'm from. I consistently am lulled by social acceptability. Because I'm square, man. I worked really hard to get this square, but I'm square, you know? You can cut yourself on my edges these days. And when people outside of NA see me and my squareness, they say, you're okay. And it's easy to believe that. And I need to be reminded of where I'm from. And I need to be reminded that a lot of my thoughts come from a different place than where I think they come from. And they're not for my best interest. And I need to be reminded of that. If you're new and you're here, if you stay grateful, you're going to have a good ride. You're going to have a good ride. Gratitude is so important. Just stay grateful, stay grateful, stay grateful. Because if not, it sucks. Because we'll always find somebody who has it better. We'll always find somebody who we think, you know, I have 30 days clean, they have 30 days clean, but somehow their 30 days has done them better, now I'm mad. Even though I've had a fantastic 30 days, because I haven't used in 30 days. But I don't realize that. The best way I can describe that, you know, my definition of gratitude, which I had a hard time describing until I really put two and two together, was the one-armed guy I met at the meeting when I had about, 60, 70 some odd days clean. And I had walked into a meeting and I was upset. Why? It doesn't matter. I was always upset. I was not getting along with my girlfriend. I didn't like my job. I didn't like my sponsor. I couldn't find any people to make friends with. Everything sucked. You know, crying me a river sort of thing. And I went into the meeting and that's what I shared about. How lame everything was, and how horrible everything was, and how upset I was. And probably 2 or 3 people after I shared, this guy with one arm shared. And he had even less time than I did. And he was missing his left arm from the elbow down. And he explained when he shared that he was missing his left arm because he had shot up so much. There was so much necrotic tissue, so many abscesses, so much vessel damage that they took it. That he had used until his arm fell off. And the only reason he said that to us is to tell us that he was grateful he didn't have an arm anymore because it made it harder to shoot up. And he said if I had to give my other arm for things to be this good, I'd give it. And I've never been so happy in my life, and my daughter's starting to talk to me again, and all these fantastic things are coming out of my mouth. So 2 things are happening to me. One, I feel like a jerk. Because the one-armed guy is happy as a pig in slop, and I'm upset over what, my girlfriend? 2, I'm angry at him. What a jerk. You think you're so... high and hoity-toity with your, happy-go-lucky blah, blah. Just wait, buddy. A missing arm's gonna set in and you're gonna be pissed. Seriously, in all the time that he shared, he never once said that he was upset about missing his arm. He never complained about what it was like, having to deal with regular life functions. I mean, try living with one arm. I bet it's more challenging than any of us would realize because we don't have to experience it. So after the meeting, everybody's hugging and saying hi, and I went up to him and I said hi, and he was just such a happy guy. And I said to him, doesn't it bother you at all that you lost your arm? And he said, man, I get great parking. And that is my definition of gratitude. Right? When it gets to the point where you could just shovel anything on the guy and he goes, wow, that's the biggest pile of anything I've ever seen. That's pretty impressive. Wow, I'm gonna work this out. Cool. I wasn't there. And I wasn't grateful. And I spent a long time in here before I got to that point. But I don't want to jump away from it. The reason I said that is it's for the newcomer. Use us. Exploit us. Ask us questions. If someone doesn't have the answer, ask someone else. That's what we're here for. We're responsible for you until you get a sponsor. That's what my book told me. We're all responsible for everybody new until they get a sponsor. So please, ask me anything you want to know. I'll tell you my experience on it. I can't tell you, NA's #1 stance. But you're never alone. I'm never alone. Never. And I can tell you that, if you notice, I started up when I had 10 years. I had 10 years, you guys made me figure it out because I was signing the thing to register. 10 years, 11 months, and 8 days clean. And if you're new, I want you to understand something. Don't think for a second that a day goes by that I don't think about drugs. Not one day. I'm not saying that I feel like using every day, but I rarely that a day goes by that I don't in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just because I'm remembering that I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous and remembering why it is that I'm here, that doesn't go away. And that's not supposed to be threatening or scary or bad that it doesn't go away. That's okay. I need that. That's the foundation of my identity, of who I am and what I need to do on a regular basis. You're not alone. Everybody in here who's got any clean time at all knows what it's like to feel like you have to use. Everybody here knows what it feels like when it calls and you say, I don't feel like it, and it says, you do feel like it right now, and you will go do it. The scariest thing about what we face with this disease is that it sounds just like us. We think we're having thoughts, but that's not thoughts. That's the diseased thinking of addiction. It sounds like us. Anyway, it's smarter than us, it's quicker than us, and it has the PIN code to our ATM card. Right? You cannot win. We cannot win against this. This is an uphill battle. It's a losing fight. It is beyond any individual's capability to surmount what addiction does to us. That is why it's called a fellowship. That is why we have each other. The steps are essential, but the fellowship's what we do. The fellowship is designed to make each of us feel guilty enough to do steps. Right? To have people around us that make us say, are you done with that step yet? Yeah. And we say, shut up. No. I'm working on it. You're not. You're playing Xbox. Well, I will work on it. That's our job. That's the point of the fellowship. What I understand, because this is serious. I joke around a lot, but the disease of addiction is very serious. Please, I beg, whatever your higher power is, do not underestimate this disease. Do not underestimate that. And it doesn't grow stronger. It just does something that we're incapable of doing. It's consistent. It's perfectly consistent forever. And that's what we have to remember. We change. We feel like we get better, we feel like we get worse, but the disease stays exactly the same. And it's infinitely patient. It doesn't care what we do today. Tomorrow has no bearing on what we do today and whether or not we stay clean. I was joking with the guy in front of me. He said he had 28 years. I said, that's a trip. He said, it has been a trip. Yeah. He's no further away from using than Alex, right? One hit, one blast is all it takes to put you at 0. And the disease never forgets that. The disease knows that, thrives on it, lives by it, hopes for it. I know that there's, and some people see it different ways. I don't believe in the devil per se in my own spirituality, but I do believe in addiction. And I believe that the most insidious part of it is that it convinces us it doesn't exist. The most insidious part of it is that, we say, even the book says, relapses can and does happen. It's never an accident. We make choices. But the hard part is, and this is why we need each other so much, those choices, that's the disease talking, right? Remember, it sounds just like me, so it's going to tell me something, and I'm going to think it was my idea, or that it was my choice. That's the thinking disease. One day I'm going to think, well, I've weighed the pros and cons, I've considered all the factors involved, all the potential futures have been established, and I've decided that the best thing to do right now is get high. That's totally insane. But it would sound perfectly logical to me at that time. And here's why I think that that's not a decision. When you make a decision, you usually, no one could have convinced me that I could stay clean through that first urge. When I got clean and then it finally came to get me and I wanted to get high, and I knew I was going to get high. Let me say that. I knew that I was going to get high. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when. When that came and hit me, no one could convince me that that was going to be okay. No one could tell me that that was going to go away. I didn't know those were temporary, right? Urges leave no matter what you do. Whether you use or not, as great as this disease works, it only works in spurts, in waves. It's not constantly attacking us. It comes up every once in a while. When I had that first urge, I never thought I was going to make it. Once you do, because it can be done, in case you don't know. If you're new and you don't know that, you can get through using urge without getting high, because it will pass. Once that happens and you have this evidence, real evidence against the disease, because the only person that can give me evidence against my disease is me. I can listen to you guys, and I try sometimes. You guys usually have pretty good things to say, but until I experience it, I won't believe it. I think it's an addict trait of stubbornness. I just don't buy it. You're selling it, and I'm not buying it. Not until I see it for myself. And that, to me, is the beginning of understanding what freedom from active addiction is when you get past that first point. How do we know it's not a decision? Because you don't wake up the next morning after, you maybe make the decision to get high and you don't. And you go to bed, and you wake up and you don't want to get high anymore. And you say to yourself, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't get high. That's not a decision, man. That's an urge. That's the disease that came and knocked and left. Passed in the night. We don't do that for decisions, If it was a decision, it would be something that we stuck to. And that's hard. That's why we need each other so much. That's why we need each other so much. And I can't talk enough. I could spend the whole time up here just talking about the disease, just talking about what it is we're up against and how scary it is. I am afraid of getting high. I have 10 years clean. I'm afraid of getting high. I do what I feel I'm supposed to do on a regular basis to prevent that because I'm terrified of it. Listen, it's a healthy fear. I'm also afraid of gunfire. Right? There's nothing cowardice about that. There's something natural in me that says you should be afraid of gunfire. So I will avoid gunfire at every given opportunity. The same way that I avoid using at every given opportunity. Could I, go sit at the bar? Sure, I could. Any one of us could. We can go hang out at the bar. But how much of my life can I fit on the antenna? How much of my life am I willing to put into that can of beer or that pipe? Do the pros and cons list. The simple things our parents said when we were young, we said they were really stupid. Well, if you can't make a decision, why don't you make a piece of paper and draw a line on it and do a list of pros and cons? Yeah, Dad, that's a great idea. I'll get right on that. It works really good actually a lot of the times. And hanging out at the bar versus keeping everything I've been given because of recovery, it's a short list on the pro side for going to the bar. Can't do it. And just know that, man, that this disease is always working. It doesn't change. The old saying is doing push-ups in the parking lot. It doesn't need to be patient because it's not human, and patience is a human trait. You can do whatever you want today and feel like you did a fantastic job of being clean. At the end of the day, the disease says, I don't care, man. I'll see you tomorrow. And I'm going to be doing the same. I'm on the same game I do tomorrow. the screwed up thing is that left by ourselves, it's like the murder movies, right? Whoever wanders away from the crowd is the first one to get it. I'll be right back. Right? It's just like that here. When we start doing things on our own. Or in later recovery, when you have a few years clean, the dangerous part is if we break off in pairs. Right? We stop going to the meetings, but we're just doing our own thing over here on the side. And if there's a pair of us, we'll tell each other that we're okay. Ooh, it's real bad in that situation. You know? We're telling each other, I feel fine. How about you? I feel great. How's your life gone? That must have been God's will. Right? And God's like, nah. I definitely didn't send a memo on that one. You gotta be careful, man, because that's what it wants to do. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. All of us used alone at one time or another. We got here, we're safe. We're safe in groups. There's safety in numbers. For the new people, there's a difference between having a list of phone numbers and having a network. Okay? A list of phone numbers is a bunch of people you resent when they don't answer. You bastard, it's 3 a.m. and I'm dying, and what are you doing? Man, I'm sleeping. I didn't hear the phone. But there is a guy on third shift, 4 numbers down on that list. And if we had called him before we felt like using, we'd have known that guy worked third shift. So when it was 3 a.m., I wouldn't bother with Jim, who's definitely sleeping because he works Bob from accounting is sleeping at 3 a.m. But the guy that works third shift at the plant, he's up. I can call him, and I know that. That's a network. A network means planning ahead of time. If you were a trapeze artist, you wouldn't try to build a net while balancing. You would build the net ahead of time, so that if you fall, there's something to catch us. And that's a hard lesson because we will resent the hell out of this. The best thing we do, man, I've done it so many times. The best thing we do is take the program, work it wrong, and then resent the hell out of it. This program sucks. It doesn't work at all. You said call people when I felt like using. Yeah, you called, no one who was available whatsoever. And if I've known, I have to prepare myself for what's coming. And we get into that when we talk about the steps. Why do we practice the steps? Because someday we'll need them. Not that we'll need them every day, but that's why it's called practice. So I call people when I'm not in a bad spot. Why? Because I need to know if he's going to switch jobs and he's not going to be available at 3 a.m. And I need to tell him that I'm okay. That's what's awesome about having a home group. Everybody that has a home group, please raise your hand. That is good. Now, if you want to know where the good home group is, that would be at Stepping Stones, just outside of Joliet. It's called Silver Bullet, Saturday mornings at 9:30, and it's better than your home group. Just like that. We're on a really good group. It's a bit of a drive from here, a couple 4 hours, but man, woo, what a hit. A home group means that if you don't show up at your home group within a half hour of the meeting, somebody's texting me going, hey, where are you? Why aren't you here? And I resent them for the text, absolutely. Because if I ever don't go, I've convinced myself I have a very good reason not to be there. For example, I'm tired. I don't feel like going. They'll text me and say, where are you? You should be here. And I say, I know. And they say, I don't care if you know. Agreeing with being wrong doesn't make it okay to be wrong, Brian. All right, man, take it easy, But I need that. I do need that. I should say a little bit about myself. I really appreciate a lot of the people that spoke today. A guy named Bob that was sharing that really hit me hard, and Jonathan was sharing about reservations, and I also mentioned to him that I kept the pipe. It was going to be a memento. To bronze it, hold on to it, remind me of the old days. Fortunately, NA told me that was probably a bad idea, frowning on the keeping of memento pipe. And last night, a guy, I think his name was Dan. Was it Dan? Matt. Shared from the heart, man. And what comes from the heart goes to the heart. And you hit me because I need to hear that, man. I need to hear people stay clean through hard stuff. I need to see people show up. And for somebody to say, I lost my job and I'm getting a lead right now. I mean, I just found out and I'm getting a lead right now. I need to hear that. Because there is no excuse for not being vigilant in my recovery. There really isn't. And I want there to be plenty. My fourth step helped me realize that by the time I was 6, I hated myself. People, the whole thing of this is together we grow with love. And I was thinking about, when they ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I can tell you without a doubt that at that age, when people would talk about, what you wanted to be when you grow up, I wanted to be normal, right? Because I didn't feel normal. I have never felt normal. I've never felt like a part of whatever the hell society is. And anytime I tried to join a club or a group or a team or a band or anything, I never felt a part of it. I thought I sucked. And if I thought it hard enough, I'd make it true. And I did suck. Self-fulfilling prophecy. From 6, that's not cool. That's not okay. And you'll notice that none of our readings talk about what addiction is. And there's a reason for that. I think it manifests itself in a lot of different ways. And I don't know what addiction is or when it starts or how it works. But whatever it is that got me here and screws with me to this day, I have struggled with my entire life. And it had nothing to do with drugs. Not at the beginning. And normal. When I grow up, I want to be normal. And I spent several years in my teenage life in and out of mental institutions for cutting on myself and all this crap. And I used to be embarrassed to say that. I used to think people would look at me like, oh God, another one of them. A cutter. Hell, they didn't even come up with the term cutter until after I got clean. I didn't even know it. I told somebody about it and I said, oh, so you were a cutter? I don't know, was I? Specify what a cutter does? Did you cut on yourself? Yeah, you're a cutter. I guess it's good to identify. But I did, man. And listen, a part of the reason I was embarrassed for so long to talk about it is because I'm not really sure I was trying to kill myself. And it wasn't until I mentioned to my sponsor that I was embarrassed about it that I wasn't really sure if I was trying to kill myself. He said, yeah, but you were cutting yourself open, right? That's bad. It doesn't matter if you were trying to kill yourself. That's still not okay. So, some part of addict ego went, oh, okay, well then if it's bad enough, then I'll say it. As long as it's bad enough to be accepted as horrible, then I'll mention that I was a cutter. But I wasn't miserable for anybody's entertainment. I certainly wasn't paying attention to what other people thought about me when I was doing these things. All I knew is that I didn't feel right, and when I did things to get outside of myself, I felt better for a little while. Even if it meant that I could get you to like me for a while, I didn't have to worry about whether I liked me. And in and out of institutions as a teenager for several years until I found drugs. And they were not a problem. They were the solution. They were the answer to all of my prayers, right? Because not only did I not have to draw blood or go to an institution or, whatever the situations may be, end up in yet another counselor's office on yet another medication. If I did this stuff, there were people that would accept me. They would think it was awesome. And as long as I had a bag of something, they were my friends. And that was cool. It was like a lifestyle. And it felt right. I had never felt more alive than the first time I got high. I never felt more alive. And I'm not saying, please don't take this the wrong way. I need to say how it really was. This is why I didn't stop. Because I spent the rest of my life trying to get that high one more time. And I never got it back. I never got it back. Even when I said, I'm only going to do this one thing. I'd never do this because that's bad. But eventually, I understood. My disease explained to me in no uncertain terms that you will never get that high with this. You're going to need to move. You're going to have to do something different. Right? Insanity is you're doing the same thing. You're expecting a different result. So I would do something new. And I would get another new exciting high. Never the first high. Let me say that. I can say for sure never the first high. But something different. And if I don't like somebody, I want to spend as little time with them as I can. And they didn't like me. So drugs made it possible to spend as little time as possible with Brian. Which was fine, because he was a schmuck. And I didn't want to deal with him. And I didn't like him. And I didn't like me when I was high either, but the difference was that for a while, I didn't care. And that was all right by me. Now, meanwhile, and I have to say this because I know there's a lot of people that got clean here a lot later in life than I did. And talk about the things that they lost. man, I never even got a chance to get any. Never even started. Right? House, I didn't have shoes, you know? And I lived at home with my parents, and people said, well, you know, you lived in the suburbs, you had a house, you had a shower, I didn't use any of it. There was a functioning shower next door, never went in it. Why? Why? I'm just gonna get dirty again. Brush your teeth. Why? Right? Who cares if I don't care? They don't care. You know, if I could still get a date with fuzzy teeth, why brush them? I'm being honest, right? And I convinced myself, you know, in my teenage years, I convinced myself that I was a hippie. Mind you, there's no war, but I'm a hippie. I would force myself to listen to Grateful Dead, because that's what everybody else is listening to. I didn't bathe, and then I would put on, you know, fragrant oils to cover up the fact that I was nasty. And I didn't wear shoes. And there are people who go without wearing shoes and understand that there's a certain level of maintenance required if you decide to live this sort of lifestyle. You can go without shoes, but then the bathing thing comes into play, right? Because there's bad stuff on the ground. I didn't follow that system. I'd have a house that I didn't go home to. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is this. You can have everything, and the disease doesn't care. It doesn't care. All I wanted to do was use anything, whatever I could get my hands on. I had a couple of standoffs where I convinced myself as long as I didn't snort any coke or shoot any heroin, then I wasn't a junkie, that I wasn't an addict, that I would be okay. Because that's disgusting, right? Those people are creepy. I'd be at the party and see the guy do a rail and run up to me and yell, "All right!" None for me. You know, I was uptown by nature. If I ever went there with a drug, I'd probably pop. Strictly downtown. Thank you very much. You know, and the other stuff scared me because when I got clean in '97, and before, when I was using in the neighborhoods that I used at, dope wasn't really available as a powder at the time. It was either shoot or nothing. And I had a horrible phobia of needles. Absolutely horrible phobia of needles. Now, I'll eat mushrooms off of a chunk of cow poo, no problem. Right? Why does this taste like crap? Because it came from crap. Oh, that's nasty. Eat it with dark chocolate, it'll be all right. But, I was horrified of needles, so that was an absolutely not. And we do have that. I mean, and we have to make sure, sometimes I've met new guys who say, I'm looking for a sponsor to heroin. Why? You mean tips? It's not important, and that's why it's so important that we say it's not important what we did when we got here. The funny thing is that, I have a lot of people in my family who are in this addiction, an active addiction, with the liquid drug. And, scientists have been pushing this whole genetic theory on things for a long time. And I had avoided that for a long time because they were that. And I didn't want to be them. I wanted to be something else. It's all right if I'm an absolute wreck, as long as I'm not that kind of wreck. I don't want to be like, mom. The funny thing is when I got in enough trouble and the judge said, well, you can't do this anymore, I found a quick alternative. And went downhill really, really fast. And the first time I ever got high was October 31st, 1992. And the last time I got high was January 16th of 1997. So I used less than 5 years. I have 10 years clean now. Don't think for a second that the disease doesn't point that out to me every single day of my life. Right? Do you really need to do this anymore? Man, it was like a little 5-year issue. A bump in the road. Was it really that bad? But there's evidence. There's plenty of evidence. I look at all the guys that I hung out with, and none of them are okay. None of them are okay. They're not all dead. They're not all in jail. They're not all filling tires at the MFO. But they're not okay. And they're still angry people. They're still miserable people. I guess here's the thing that I've come to terms with is that I understand that there are people who can use and live. I I know that they're out there. There are people who can get high, go to work, or maybe they just do it on the weekends. I know they exist, but they're not me. And the ones that I have met are jerks. They're always angry about something. They're always mad at something. How could you let that guy in front of you on the highway? Man, it's not my lane. And I'm not going to get there any quicker by getting killed. You know, so I don't know. I can't live like that. I don't know how they do it. This works so good. Why not work it out? And I got clean because I suck at using. I do. I suck at using. Even then I knew I was horrible at it because there was things that other people didn't fiend for that I would fiend for all the time. And I was horrible about it, and it's all I could do. I mean, I know you guys can relate that you haven't even, you just got what you're getting, and you're already worried about where you're going to get more when this is gone. I haven't even started using, and I've never planned this well in my life. If that was the case, I'd have a 401k, a retirement plan, right? My college would have been set out. All I worried about like that was getting high, man, getting more. That's all I wanted, and it's all I could think about. And even if you thought that I was a fiend, or whatever you thought of me for that, that was cool. Whatever. Because I'd let somebody hit me if they were going to give me something. And he'd say, wow, what a puss. He's going to let me hit him for a little bit of this. And I would think, wow, what a chump. I'm going to let him stick me in the eye and I get free drugs. What an idiot. Right? This'll heal. He'll be out of drugs. Somebody sharing earlier said that we have a responsibility to take care of our bodies. Man, I didn't know that when I was using. I sure did. And I let myself get real sick, and I got to the point where I couldn't function without using in the morning, wake up shaking. And here's the thing. I didn't use I don't think in comparison to what I've seen a lot of people be able to put into their systems that I used a whole hell of a lot, but I'm not a big guy and I never was. I mean, I was 105 pounds soaking wet when I was using, so it didn't really take me much to get sick and hurt. And every morning I'd have to take something in order to get up out of bed and function because I couldn't write my name. You know, my hands would shake so much. And the denial is so good. So good. If you don't know how good denial works, I would wake up shaking from withdrawal and tell myself, man, I really need a McMuffin. I'm starving. Look at me. Holy cow, I'm really food. So I'd go eat, wash it down with something, stop shaking and go, whew, good thing I got that good healthy meal with me. Now I'm straight as an arrow. And really believe it. You really believe that stuff. So I lit my head on fire with a bottle of grain alcohol. And that was the beginning of the end, because people frown on that. They tend to notice that sort of behavior. I had the grain alcohol in this big ceramic bottle, like one of those knick-knack, kind you see like at the Cracker Barrel or something with the stopper on top. Real cool looking bottle. And who the hell drinks grain alcohol anyways? We went to, I saw it on the store. It had a Russian label and it was covered in dust. And the only parts that were in English were the ingredients, which was, one ingredient. The proof, 198. Whew. Right? And the sign that said may cause blindness. Yeah, right? That is hardcore, man. May cause blindness. Yeah. And so we put it in this bottle, and we wouldn't tell anybody what it was, and we called it Venom. Yeah, I can hold my liquor, whatever. Take this, try this. How much? As much as you want. Watch him puke and laugh. And so after several days of nursing this thing, I couldn't tell how much was left in it because it was this big ceramic bottle. You can't see it, can't hear anything. It weighs 10 pounds by its damn self, so I can't feel how much is in it. So, being the enlightened soul that I was, I took one of these and took my lighter. So you guys get it. Yeah. Where were you when I needed you? You bastards. I needed you. That apartment that day. holding me back either. How much is left? I don't know, let me check. So because this is a program about sharing experience, let me share with you some things that you wouldn't know if you haven't experienced it. One, if you've ever read a comic strip where something blows up and the cartoonist writes the word woomph above the explosion, that is exactly the noise it makes. I mean, letter for letter. And the screwed up thing is, right? The screwed up thing, as an addict with the committee, even while this is happening, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm going, man, it sounds just like they write it. It really does go woof. Two, I discovered this out later in life. There are certain parts of your body that function without you needing to tell them, right? Your heart beats on its own, your lungs take oxygen in and out. Sometimes you can have some say in the issue, but if you get dumb, they'll force it. There's certain things that happen automatically. Even beyond the point of reflex, your eyes have a special system where if there's, badness occurring, your eyes will shut and you don't need to tell them to shut. Which is why I'm not blind. Because God is smarter than me and put in idiot valves on all the major organs. Because there's no way that I thought quick enough to shut my eye, because I was still trying to figure out what the hell happened when it was all over and done with. All I knew is that things were a little warmer from the neck up. Right? And this is also what I found out after the fact, because my memory of the situation is not clear, but the girl I was dating at the time was with me and sitting next to me when I did it. And I had my head didn't catch, right? It just went, it was gone. Like a Tom and Jerry right after the fact, you see Tom? But my eyelash had caught on fire. And there was a little flame hanging out on my face. And I realized years later that this is why my girlfriend was smacking me in the face. Going, ah, 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 ah. At first I was like, man, chill out, bro. Why are you hitting me in the face? Right? I mean, think about the poor victim addict, right? First something's burning, now someone's hitting me. Oh, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? And the bottle falls on the table, and I jump back on the couch, and I'm all messed up, and I'm holding my face because I don't know what's going on, and I didn't realize yet that holding burns really hurts. And, one guy looks at me, and he goes, Haz, are you okay? And the other guy looks and goes, that was awesome. And we called them friends. I'm gonna die. Who put this here? I'm coming, Elizabeth. Holy cow! He was a good guy. Here's why that mattered. And it wasn't because I cared that I burnt my face. I cared because, and I didn't realize this at the time, this is the fourth step talking, I looked how I felt, and I felt like crap. And as long as I could put out an exterior that made you think I wanted to be the way I was cool with that. And at the time I was pretending to go to college. Let's say that. I was an insurance baby. It was either go to school or not have health coverage. And the way I was living, my last name is Hazard, by the way. I'm lying, I'm dying. It might be. If I didn't go to school, I didn't have insurance, and the way I kept falling over and lighting on fire and breaking things, and I needed insurance. And I went to school after burning my face. I had second-degree burns on the rims of my eyelids, blisters. My eyelashes hadn't burnt, they had melted, so whenever I blinked, they would stick together for a second and they would dig into the blisters. This doesn't hurt when you're high, but in the AM, it tends to have an effect on me. And the part that hurt was, like walking in public and seeing people stare at me like an absolute freak. It was like they were looking at me the way I would look at me if I could. You know what I mean? Because I hated myself. I thought I was a puss. I thought I was a coward. I thought I was a fiend. I thought I was useless to society. I thought if I had the balls to kill myself, I'd have done it right. But I don't. I'm not even good enough to do that. So I literally live to use. So when people are looking at me the way that I feel, it ended me. It ended me. It hurt so bad. And even though, don't get me wrong, I know that this sounds really pretentious and jerky, but at the time there was a guy in a wheelchair with no legs, and he's pointing and looking at me. And I'm thinking, wow, that guy's got no legs, lives in a wheelchair, he's pointing and looking at me. I'm a freak, and I don't know. Did that get me to stop using? Absolutely not. Here's why I'm clean. I'm clean because God has a grace I cannot understand. I'm clean because God has a plan I cannot comprehend. I'm clean because of God. And I'm clean because of my Father. And He is my hero. He saved my life, even by just doing one thing, and He's done many more than that. But sometimes we need that. I know I'm not the only one that somebody stepped in front of and said, man, you're going to rehab. And was forced into it, was pushed into rehab against my will. I had no intention of getting clean. None. Because I didn't know how. And I also thought that anybody who said that they didn't smoke weed was a liar. I figured grandma smokes weed. And I wanted to be old on a porch swing getting high. That was my idea. I figured everybody. And there's a lot of stuff in the media that really, adds to this image. And people really do believe this. It's somebody, somewhere, everybody, somewhere is getting high. All the time, someone. And anyone who says so is either a bum or a nerd or a liar. And I went to treatment because I was made to. And the very first day of treatment, these jamokes said, go ahead, go home and get your stuff. Okay, you know what my stuff is? So I got high. The guy that was supposed to be my strength waited in the car. Do you have everything? I almost had everything. Let me go get one more thing. And I got totally wasted. Went back to rehab. And then, they pulled a trick and they said, we're going to an outside meeting. Outside meeting? I didn't sign up for an outside meeting. I think I just signed up for the, treatment thing here. And here's the funny thing. Here's why I don't believe that the disease is just an individual thing from one person or another. Why I have this bizarre superstition that the disease is like something big, something more than we can comprehend. Because when they said, well, we're going to this meeting, it's called NA. And something in me went, whoa, crap, get out of it. Find a way out. That can't be good. For two reasons. One, because I don't want to go. And two, I'm high now. If I go, I thought you guys were going to chase me out of the room with pitchforks and torches. You bastard. How dare you break into our sacred meeting with your highness. And everything we do for a reason. Because at that first meeting, and I actually regret not saying this when I first got up here. If I didn't, I apologize. I can't remember if I did or not. The first thing any member of this fellowship ever said to me before his name, before hello, before anything, and we pulled up outside this meeting, I'm high as a kite, we get out of the car, I'm finishing a cigarette. I'm terrified to walk into this crowd of people who are definitely going to stick me like Caesar, And I see one of the people that drove me there talking to this guy who walks up to me, gives me a hug, and he holds me at arm's length and he says, you never have to use again. And if I could have cried, I would have lost it right there. But it was too high. And it registered as an impact, which was hard for me to deal with at the time. Oh, he got to me. Shh. And when we went into the meeting, listen, come on. Are we really going to believe that no one knew that Brian was blown out of his mind that night? Because for a long time, I was convincing myself, and the thing was, none of them knew I was high. I can tell when a guy in South Bend gets high, right? Right in the what? There's one right there. We have excellent radar. Don't tell me we don't know when somebody's high. We know all the time. And part of it is because there's still a little part. I remember seeing somebody nodding in a meeting and going home and griping to my sponsor, that bastard right there, nodding in my meeting. And he said, jealous? No. Maybe. Yes. And I went into the meeting and I convinced myself you guys didn't know I was high, and then they started doing the key tags, which I'd never heard of before. And some stupid lady who said she was grateful. I remember that. Hi, I'm Joni, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. Idiot. Grateful for what? I'm in a church basement on a Monday night. It's exciting. And she started showing the key tags and talking about, the key tags and what they mean and what they represent. And then they got to the white key tag. This is the way they used to do it at my old home group. They'd say, this is for the person who wants to stop paying the high cost of low living and give our way of life a try. This is for anybody new to the program. And everybody's looking at me and I'm thinking, this is it, I'm pinched. Right, they're gonna do a breathalyzer or a blood test right here and now, man. I'm done for. And then she says, anyone, 0 to 29 days. I was like, oh, 0! 0 days, man, I got 0 days. I'm in. I've been here for 10 years because you guys gave me that stupid white key tag for 0 days. Because if somebody had said, sorry, man, come back tomorrow, I wouldn't have come. I'm serious, I wouldn't have come. Because it would have been yet another example in my life of another place that I don't fit in. And you guys said, you know what? You don't get the opportunity to weasel out of this one. You get 0 days clean. And while you're at it, have a book. You got $10? Oh, God. I was 8 of you. You got $8? This is a little... Now, keep in mind, right? I could make money appear from thin air if the call came in, he's got it now, he's leaving for work in 15 minutes. I could make a 40-minute... I could start a ride with no money in my pocket on a 10-speed, or a 40-minute trip and be there in 10 minutes with $60, and we're good! We're good! Now I'm clean and I need gas money, and it just doesn't seem to work the same way, but... I said, I don't really have, enough money, this and that, and this guy comes up and tosses them, hey, how much do you got? And I started looking, and he says, forget it. He throws $8 on the table, and he says, go ahead, take the book. Ooh, major violation of the ethic code here. I don't even know you, first off, right? What do you want for that? Because you've already said you're an addict, which means that you're like me, which means that you're a creepy bastard, and I don't want your free book, old man. So I said, when can I pay you back? He says, stay clean. I said, no, when? I need to pay you back. Right, because I don't take anything for free. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You know you do. I take anything I can get for free. And if you don't know you gave it to me for free, all the better. It's all stealing. No, I won't take anything for free. He says, fine, listen. Then when you get the $8, buy a book for somebody else. And this is way before that silly old movie came out. Buy the book for somebody else. Little did that guy know that he's cost me like hundreds of dollars in basic texts. Because I'll hear it, and it's like God, you hear it in the side of your corner of your ear. I'm just a couple bucks short. And the same guy, later on, I said, man, I heard him reading from the Holland Y, and I thought, man, it's a really cool book. He goes, what, you don't have one? Did it to me again. This is that book. This is the same book that guy, his name was Devin, and I don't know if he's clean anymore. But I owe him my life. Like many other people in this program, I owe him my life. Because this is that book that was given to me the day that I walked into narcotics. And people say, it's broken, get a new book. It is broken. But here's the problem, and I know there's people who can relate. I've written all this junk in here. And I've highlighted all this junk in here. And I tried to get a new book, and did you know that you can't find anything in a new book? I can't find anything at all. It's all missing. I have this Band-Aid with a smiley face on it why are we here? Without that Band-Aid, I don't know why I'm here. Because God is a funny God, if you were to take my book and just drop it, it always opens up to the part of recovery and relapse that says that relationships can be terribly painful. I swear to God, it opens right up to that page every single time. When I left the book on top of my car and drove out of the meeting and saw a little flash of blue in the back window and pages flying everywhere, and I went to go put the book together, the book was still open to the page about relationships. All right, I get it, They're going to pound it into me. But I was made to feel welcome, and I felt like I belonged. Because I can say really creepy things here, and you guys just go, yeah. Yeah. I know. Been there. I've done that. And I go, really? And they go, yeah. And thank you for having done it. I remember when my son was very, very young and I wanted to go to a convention, and I said, well, what I'll do is, after he's asleep, I'll put a monitor in the room, and I can take the thing with me, and I can go do whatever I want to do. And somebody who overheard me said, oh, honey, that's illegal. And I felt this small when she said it. And she said, oh, I only know it's illegal because I got caught for it. And I don't want you to get in trouble, too. It's abandonment, just so you know. And then I got these rules. How much time do I have? Whatever? Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Now, the reason listen, man, if I could just take everything stupid I've ever done and stay up the night before, getting a lead, and put them in little boxes, right? And then I would stand at the door of the meeting and hand them out to everybody that came to the meeting. Don't do anything in this box. Anything in this box. But here's the problem. We don't believe anything anyone says ever, unless we've done it. And we have this really funny dichotomy going, because here's the thing. We are a fellowship made of hypocrites. We are. We need to be. Right? The guy, and here's the best way to put it. If you meet a butcher with one arm, and he says to you, don't shove your arm in the meat grinder. He may be a hypocrite, but that is sound advice. What am I going to say? Why shouldn't I? You did it. No? Yes, he did. And if you want, you can be just like him. Again, that's why we're a fellowship. We are each other's eyes and ears. I remember telling my sponsor, this one guy I can't stand him, he's so creepy, he goes to the meeting and he does dump truck sharing, right? And then he leaves. Oh, I hate him! The parking lot addict! Oh, I can't stand the parking comes in and he's upset and then he leaves, and next time he comes back he's upset over the same damn thing. And I can't stand him. And you know, I told my sponsor, everything this guy says is creepy, this and this and this, and he said, well, you should listen to him, because that way, if you ever hear yourself saying that, then you'll know that you're creepy too. I mean, there is something to say for watching people doing things wrong and getting information off of it. The book says relationships can be, say it right, please, can be a terribly painful area. It didn't say which relationships, it didn't say who, and it didn't say how old or what sex or any of that stuff. It just said relationships. And I found that to be true. But here's the thing, and this is me speaking. I am not endorsing, I am not Narcotics Anonymous. I'm sure you figured that out. Excuse me. But sometimes I'll end up sponsoring, because we've gotten really young. We got people coming in 14, 15, hell, 12 years old. And you can't say that their pain isn't the same, because if they're 12 shooting up, there's pain. Right? They need this. They earn their chair as much as we did, man. And it's hard for me to look at an 18-year-old guy coming into NA and say, don't date for a year. Right. And he thinks he's joining the priesthood. And I'm not trying to put that on an 18-year-old guy. It's not, the book says sponsorship is about sharing experience, strength, and hope. Not giving advice, not telling people what they should and shouldn't do. Just because I suck at dating doesn't mean that I get to assume that he sucks at dating. That might be the one good relationship he's going to manage to have. And I'm going to tell him not to have it because I'm an idiot. Right? Because I'm handing out advice. No PhDs in NA, thank God. Honorary PhDs? No. Creepy, not good. And so I don't say that. But I do let them, direct them to the point that says relationships can be terribly painful, and it's all about unrealistic expectations. If you decide that your significant other is your higher power, you are in trouble. If how you feel is completely dependent, let's say we, because this is true for anybody, how we feel is completely dependent on how our significant other feels, we are in trouble. Because they can lead us to use it. No person can serve as a higher power 100% of the time. Because we are inherently flawed. We will mess up. Don't follow me to the cliff. Because when I get there, I'm jumping the hell off. And you should have known that when I was walking to the cliff. What are you going to do? What we do. And that was hard for me too to realize. And for me, it also wasn't. The problem was, is I got clean and found out that I had genitalia. It hadn't worked that well up till then, but now, cool. Some good looking people in NA. And I was terrified of the black key tag chicks, because, careful. Because, right away they're like, done a fourth step. We'll talk later. I was afraid of that. I was looking for orange or green, please. Because we act like you have to have time to be a predator in NA. I didn't need any time. Need a phone number. And I swear to God, I was intimidated by black key tags. Male or female, black key tags people scared the crap out of me because I was not on truth my first year here. I don't know what I was on, but it wasn't really about trying to find out who I was and get better and feel clean and be a happy person and learn how to love other people and have a relationship with God. No. What's your name? I didn't like me, but if I could get you to like me, that would work for a while. Because I like you. And it doesn't work. That's my experience to give to you. It doesn't work. I had to spend some time by myself. And here's the thing: is I was a slut. This is what it really comes down to. if you didn't know, guys, you actually can be a slut and be a guy. I was definitely a slut. Because I gave myself to anybody who would take me. Because I didn't know that I was worth more. So I did not have a relationship for a year, but I did choose not to sleep with anybody. Let me tell you what happens when you make that decision. It changes who will date you. Apparently, women like to have sex also. Because in the old days, I would say, well, she seems kind of crazy, but I bet the sex would be great, so we're going to see how this works out. But if I'm not going to have sex with anybody, then it's just, she's crazy. Why would I date crazy? That's nuts. But, it goes both ways, because now people were, girls were looking at me going, well, he's just crazy. So, why would I date him? But that was good, because it made me look at myself, made other people look at myself, and it also made several people in this fellowship call me just a liar. Sure you're not. I gotta do what I gotta do. And it was suggested to me by somebody who was happy. He said, dating's not the problem, dating's good, dating's fine, there's nothing wrong with dating. Serial monogamy is a bit of a problem, but dating itself is fine. He says there's nothing wrong with being in a relationship as long as that relationship doesn't define who you are. I went to a dance out in Wisconsin, right? And bumping and shaking, and things are good. And I see this really good-looking blonde girl, right? Go chit-chat, work magic. And, talking her up and all this, and she says, "Want to go outside?" Well, yes, I do. So we go outside and kind of go around the side of the building, right? Think it's popping, man. Have a cigarette. She lights a cigarette. I light a cigarette. And a little small talk, and then after a second, the small talk fades off, and she's not saying anything for a second, and I'm thinking, this is different. This isn't really going the way I planned. And she says to me, I didn't want to do this in front of your friends. And I'm thinking, that's a bad start. She says, you seem like a real nice guy, but you just don't know it yet. And she said, and this isn't verbatim, I can't remember exactly what she said, because at the same time I was still thinking, so I'm not getting laid. I don't know if I thought I was getting laid in a back alley of an AA building or something, but there is that in the back of my head going, so nothing's happening, okay? Blah, 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 whatever you're saying. Get back in, I got work to do. But I heard her. She impacted. If I hadn't heard her, I wouldn't be saying it to you 7-8 years later. And she said, you're a half of a person looking for another half to complete you, and that means you're still sick. And that when you're a whole person looking for someone to share yourself with, you'll be happy. What I didn't know was that she had violated a very important code. Her black key tag was in the purse where I couldn't see it. Totally caught. This is why I was trying to avoid the black key tag chicks. Stupid black key tag. And so after we talked, I didn't say much. I just sort of, okay. Well, thanks. And we went back in and tried to play it cool. Guys are all looking at me like, and I sat down to have a drink, and this guy sitting at it's not a bar, it was an NA club, and the guy sitting at the juice bar next to me, and he says, hey, I said, hey, he goes, she's got about 4 years. I said, yeah. I don't know if she's clean anymore either, but, today I have the best wife that anybody could ask for. And I wouldn't be able to have this relationship if the black key tag chick hadn't given me a good pride stomping that night to make me realize that something was wrong. So I owe her a lot, whether she's clean or not. It breaks my heart that so many people that have saved my life aren't here anymore. Why do I keep this book? Because there's the signatures of the dead adorn my book. Because the signatures of people who lost this war are in my book. And I don't want to lose them. And I can't give enough for what's been given to me. I can't. And the steps came as a natural progression. There are 2 ways to be clean, with and without steps. Please talk to the people who are without steps and see if that's a decision you want to make. It's horrible. And here's the most dangerous thing. This happens a lot in NA. This is not me trying to offend anyone. This is not me trying to take anyone's inventory. This is what hurt me so badly for so long and needs to be said. This disease will get you any way it can. It will come at us sideways. It will come at us backwards. It will come at us when we least expect it, especially when things are going really good. And here's how it works. We say, I'm going to do steps. And it says, fine, go ahead and do steps, but you better get them just right. If you don't get them just right, I'll come for you again. So 3 years later, on our 4th step, and we want to know why we're not getting the benefits of this program. Because procrastination is just another form of this disease, milking it, man. Milking it. My understanding, and what I had to find out the hard way, is that this is a God-given program of 12 steps. I can't perfect them anyways, but I need all 12. It's not a 3-step, 6-step program. It's a 12-step program, and all 12 are great. And you can't understand what it's like to work in 11 steps until you've worked in 11 steps. And we all need that, man. It feels so good to get through those steps and have a beginning. We can't practice them in our daily affairs if we don't even know what they are. And the disease will get us stick on one step for months and months and months and months at a time. And here's how I had to get honest with myself. This is for me. This is Brian. When I was not married and I got a new girlfriend, right? Well, I found time. If a new video game comes out and I really like it, I make time. How long does it take to finish that game? 40 hours? That's 2 straight days, a little loss of food and sleep. I'll fix it, I'll flip it, no problem. If there's something I want, I get it. So I have to challenge myself when I say I want these steps. How bad do I want them? And if not, why not? And sometimes it's just that I don't remember what it's like. Newcomers saved my life every single time. And that's why the service is so important, because they save our lives, remind us of where we're from. I said when I was young and I wanted to grow up, I said I wanted to be normal. When I got here, it asked me what I wanted to be grow up. I wanted to be free. I just wanted to be like the happy ones that are here. Why is it that after a year clean, there's all you happy people and I'm a miserable cuss? The steps are the solution. A year of faking steps, pretending to do step work. It's like going to the Book of the Month Club and not reading. I really like the part where, in the 3rd step where it talks about that spiritual principle of, what's that one? Yeah, that one. A lot out of it. I highlighted my book when I was in early recovery so that you guys thought I read it. I swear to God. I highlighted the book to make it look like I had read it. Now here's the trick. I had to read it to highlight it. But I wasn't paying much attention. I just wanted to look like it had in the cover. Yet again, not realizing that I fit in automatically, I was still trying to fit in. And I was miserable because of that. And somebody talked earlier today about, get a bottom in recovery. And see what that's like. It talks about, I think it's either in recovery and relapse or more will be revealed. I'm horrible at finding things in the book about my stickers and my highlighting. But it says, this, we take the first step, things start getting good, then we get cocky. We think we can do well on our own. We step out on our own. Cockiness is a red light indicator. And then it says, something goes wrong. That's what it says, something goes wrong. Usually, yes, usually. If I'm in charge, we're hitting nice, right? Excuse me, and something did. And then I had an option. Stay or go. stay or go. Because I cannot stand watching you people be happy and be miserable. The only thing worse than being high and not knowing I was miserable is being clean and knowing full well that I was miserable. Full well, you can't steal things and try to get over on people when you're clean and not go to bed and hear that pillow. Who knew it had a voice? It did, it does. You can't live with it. And now I'm so squared. Like I said, it's horrible. People say, why do you do what you do? Why? I can't take change that doesn't belong to me out of a vending machine. Why not? It's not my change. So what? It's stealing. That's silly. Fine, it's silly. Does it hurt me to leave it there? I'm out 30 cents. Is that so bad? 30 cents? And I don't ask anybody else to live by this, but the book says rigorous honesty, man, and I'm scared of using. I don't want to get high again. And I don't know which things are okay to do and not do. I don't know which wrongs are okay to do and not do. I don't know which lies I can tell and still stay clean. I don't know which things I can steal and still stay clean. I don't know. But it's not worth it. I have a wife that I still think she's nuts for being with. Just nuts for being with. And I wouldn't be worthy of that if I allowed the downhill slide, right? Because nobody relapses on, my sponsor calls it prelapse. Packing your things to go. Doing things and justifying them. When somebody said it earlier, when I start hearing myself go, I know. Nobody says it that much. It starts to sound weird, I know. Yeah. And that's what we have to watch out for. I cannot always be your fellow recovering addict and your buddy friend at the same time. I hope that if I'm ever doing anything stupid, that you will spare me the concern for my feelings and tell me the truth. I don't want to die. And it's the things that the mean guys, right, called mean guys, right? In the old days when they'd say stuff like, work the steps or die, mofo! Right? What did you do today to stay clean? I came to the meeting. That's it, you're screwed! Chill out, Pops, all right? Take it easy. And I said to this guy, he goes, you really think you did enough for your recovery today? I said, yeah. He goes, good. You'll be high by the end of the night. And I said, whoa, what are you talking about? And he said, listen, man, everybody thinks they're doing enough. Everybody thinks they're doing enough, and yet most of us will use. What does that tell you? That you don't get to say what's enough. We need people outside ourselves to say what's enough. The book, sometimes when I'm doing something really creepy in the old days, and somebody would say, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I would say, hey, man, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Book does not say that you are allowed to say that you are right where you're supposed to be. Somebody else is supposed to tell you you're right where you're supposed to be. You're not allowed to tell yourself. Because I said that at the spot. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. 6 o'clock, you'll be here any minute. Not allowed to do that. Not allowed to. And listen, I will do anyone in recovery the same service. And sometimes that might make me unpopular. It might make you unpopular. But this isn't a popularity contest. This isn't. And I joke all the time, our kids need shots. Kids hate shots, but you hold them down and give them to them anyways. Because I'd rather he'd be alive and, a little resentful over being held down for a shot than dead by Ebola. But he likes me. I don't want that. I don't want somebody dead that likes me. I don't want to think that I didn't say to you what you needed to hear because I was afraid that you might get mad at me. Get mad at me. Please, get mad at me. Because we all get mad. It's not an addict thing. It's a human thing. Nobody likes to be wrong. It sucks. One of the guys that I sponsor, that I respect the most, the first thing he tells me anytime I give him a suggestion is to shut up where the sun doesn't shine. Right? Well, I think you should, suggesting that maybe you should look at this. Well, maybe I think you're a dick. It's not impossible. It's just something to look at. When I quit smoking in the program, I had 8 years off of cigarettes. And because it's socially acceptable. It's everywhere. And you know what? Even in recovery, we're jerks about it. Because somebody will be like, I'm trying to quit, man. And they're like, yeah, right, here. First one's free, buddy. Here you go. Misery loves company, right? We're such jerks when people are trying to quit smoking. Sure, you're right. We would never say that if they said they were trying to get off heroin, but they say they're trying to get off steroids. We're like, yeah, okay. Sure. I didn't know I was willing to quit cigarettes. The book says, things come to you as they're supposed to occur. You just be willing. Our willingness to change is a catalyst for what's going to come to us in our life to change. I just woke up without squares, man. I just woke up without squares, and I didn't want to go get any. So I didn't. And when it got really hard to not think about it, I called another recovering addict, and I told him, I really feel like using. Just didn't say what. The guy was probably smoking while I was talking to him. And when he found out later, he goes, you bastard. That was about cigarettes. I was worried sick. And I said, listen, you should have been worried sick. At 23 years old, I'm coughing up chunks of lung. You should be worried about me. It's not okay. It's not okay. And I quit with this program, with these steps, with this fellowship. I called you guys and told you I felt like using. They just never said what. And y'all talked me through it. I called a lot. And until I, gave myself up, after I felt okay and finally confessed to some of my friends that this was about smoking, for a while there, they're like, man, Brian's in a really bad spot. I never got so many calls from the guy. He's calling me 3 or 4 times a day. What's going on? What happened? Did somebody die? What's going on? And then, do I need a reason to feel like using? Just talk to me, man. And it worked. It did work. I have no idea why I started talking about that. But the point is this, is you can change anything. You can do anything in this fellowship. It's a trick, man. It's a bait and switch when they say the only promise is freedom from active addiction. Because once you're free, you can do just about anything you want. You just don't know. Freedom from active addiction to me is this. One day, I woke up and realized that the day before, I did not have an urge to use. A whole day had gone by, and I hadn't even noticed that I didn't have an urge to use. Freedom. I didn't feel anything. Not that that was the last time I ever had an urge to use, but it was the beginning of what I understood to be freedom. And freedom for me today is this. I am not powerless over whether or not I use right now. None of us are. We're powerless over addiction. We're not powerless over what we do right now in this moment, which is why we live just for that. That's the only reason we do it. Because I can guarantee you that by the time I go to bed tonight, I'll go to bed clean. Beyond that, I can't tell you anything. But the rest of it doesn't matter. Once you have that freedom from active addiction, and you realize how open it is and how accessible it is, it makes it all worth it. That obnoxious, really long 4th step. And the funny thing is that the only reason the 4th step seems so intimidating is because you haven't done the 6th step. That thing's rough. There's so much good to be had. If I had to ask, if somebody were to ask me what I want to be when I grow up now, old, clean, right? I just want to stay alive. You guys keep teaching me new things and challenging me. And I got kids, and I got a wife, and a job, and a house, and a car, and all the body panels of the car are the same color. I don't have the urge to steal anymore. I rarely have the urge to use. I don't unintentionally insult people anymore. I know how to be respectful to women. I'm respectful to my parents, even the one that's still in active addiction. That's my side of the street. Can you really ask for anything more? I'm going to bring my guitar to the fire. And I hope to see some of you guys down there. But I don't know any Crosby, Stills, Nash. I'm sorry. No. I'm right where I'm supposed to be.